you just talked about the siege of Antwerp. And so these Lutheran artists you proposed, they were sort of trying to submit a petition, a supplication, by making these images with sort of very traditional Catholic imagery. And so, for example, we, apart from the archangel, we also have this Mary Magdalene. And you argue that this is an image about redemption, about renouncing your former life of sins. And you sort of draw this interesting parallel between the sinner, Mary Magdalene, and the Netherlands, which have become Protestant. Could you maybe, this is one of the things as a Dutchman, I love this in your book. Could you tell us a bit more about this, and also about how the archangel fits into that supplication?
Well, so, all right, two things. One, so 1584, the archangel, this print that you're showing, and another print are all of the crucifixion with a very prominent Mary Magdalene. Are all published by Adrianus Hubertus, so his name's on the print here, and Vierix in a sort of co-publication agreement that only seems to last for this one sort of group of prints. And they are all, these three scenes are beautiful, really high quality engravings by Vierix, and they are all two of them are prominently dedicated to Catholic leaders. So Montanus, Benito Arias Montanus, at this moment is the expurgator of the library at the Escorial. He'd lived in Antwerp for a decade before the revolt, and maintained a lot of friendships with Antwerp publishers and artists. So in some ways, it was like the dedication is something that I think is meant to remind Montano of his good friends in the north, and also to kind of, it also asks for not just Montano, but for any international clientele who knows who Montano is. He's of course an international author, best-selling author of religious books. That it kind of also acts as like, oh, see, it's a good Catholic. These are again good Catholic objects. The DeVos image is also strange because it figures Lucifer. So the story of Michael, right, is he is the conqueror of the rebel angels, and Lucifer, the head, and the Satan, is being cast down, and it's a very weird image because Lucifer is not, protesting. He's not. He has his hands like this, which is a gesture of kind of reception that one associates with most often with the Virgin Mary when in the Annunciation is often doing this, right? So it's a very weird image where Lucifer is kind of gracefully ceding defeat, and also that Michael is not armed, I think, is what makes this a very weird, iconographically weird Saint Michael. And I think that at various points in its history, the circulation of this iconography, it becomes very important that it's an unarmed archangel. So I think for Antwerp, at this moment, the literal laying out of the laying down of the sword, and he's only being subdued by this open hand of light, which has Chaos Deus, all right, who is like God, written around it, which is Michael's name in Hebrew, right? So it's that the force of the word. It's weirdly like it is a little bit Protestant. There's something like a little bit ambiguous about Michael, about the whole thing. It's just a kind of, it's supposed to be an image of conquering, but it's this beautiful angel who's like delicately trotting on Lucifer, who is not super rebellious in this moment, right? He's just, so it is a very odd image. And I think it is about this moment of sort of loss and redemption, and trying to be back into recognizing that Antwerp will soon be back in sort of the Spanish Catholic world. So there's a question about the martyr's palm. I think that's part of it, right? The laying down of the sword, and that it's really about faith, right, and belief rather than than violence, and that's an amazingly it's an amazing choice. And the design is originally done in 1581 when, you know, Antwerp is first rebelling, and I think that idea meant something slightly different in 1581 than it did in 1584 when that moment of
so what does it mean in 1581?
Well, in 1581, I think it's about an image of like, we don't. I mean, I think this picture is that the painting was always meant for export. I don't think it was ever meant to hang in Antwerp, and I think he knew it was for a Spanish context. It's part of a series of canvases that are all vertically oriented on the same roll of canvas. That kind of format didn't really exist in Antwerp readables at the moment, so I think he always knew it was a Spanish or Iberian commission because it fits much more in that model. So I think similarly in 1581 he was saying, like, you know, there is no need to be, you know, to bring the sword, right? Like we're stepping aside, right? And I think it's a kind of an appeal to sort of a kind of clemency in 1581 that's sort of preemptory, whereas I think in 1584, especially with the inscription on the bottom about, you know, being punished for hubris, is a different kind of moment, right? When Antwerp is actually besieged.
So he was sort of hedging his bets, was he?
Yeah, I think again, pragmatism. I think De Vos is incredibly pragmatic. You know, he's doing full Lutheran decor programs for German princes and Calvinist dining rooms, and also totally down the middle Catholic Spanish devotional prints. So,
and he was so good, he got away with it.
Yeah,